I guess I'm going to open this up. So, bigger. Good. So we are officially open. Jim, I can't get over the quilt that you have back there.
How long it took to sew this thing?
That's hilarious. So is that the official background of Illinois Credit Services, the quilt?
No, this is the background that stops everybody from seeing all the basement down back here that has all my water softener systems.
So a nice 2-hour project that you had. So that's hilarious. So that's good.
Mm-hmm.
So we open the doors, let everybody start getting in here. So we're all wired up technology wise. Hopefully I don't curse ourselves with that, but I think we're in good shape there. We have our technology expert, Tony, anyway. So if we get in trouble, we're in good shape there. For the participants, you guys won't be on video, but there's a place in the chat room. That's where you can communicate with us, and Tony's already put some things in there. So that's a good thing. Looks like Jason's here with us, so that's good. So yeah, so we'll get we got 9:50 or 8:58, so we got a couple minutes. That's a good thing. So very good thing. Excited about this one. This is the first one. I'm super excited about the Kimball Team Financial Wellness Series. So, and Jim's my first speaker. Go figure.
Very much a privilege.
You're gonna remember this day. So we're gonna do these. We're gonna do these as long as I'm in business. So
sounds good.
That's very good. Very, very good. So it's good. Maybe the gloomy weather will help us too. People can come here and learn about a bunch of credit stuff, which is great. So we're excited about that. Getting people logged in. Good deal. So aside from helping people with credit, you have some nice quilting skills back there, Jim.
It's just a hobby.
It's hilarious. So that looks like an old quilt.
Credit scores and quilts, we call it.
Quilting and credit scores. I missed that. I missed the invite to that club.
Right.
That's good. It's good. I got my cup of tea, so that's good. Jimmy, you got your cup of coffee?
Yes, I do. I got two of them actually.
Very good. Very good. So, all right, we are at 9 o'clock, so that's good. You guys, I have to clear that out. Jim, was that your computer or mine?
I'm not sure. Who did it?
I think it was mine. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to close out my, I got to close out a few things on my email. Just want to close my email out. Oh, yeah, that's good. All right, so my email is closed out. That's good. Excellent. So we're right at 9 o'clock. That's good. We'll give everybody a minute or two to log in. We're starting to get a couple ones that came in after 9. That's good. I got an intro prepared for the first time for Jim, so I'm excited about that. So I know he's nervous because I did an extensive background check on him. So we'll tell some stories that have to do with college. No, we're not going to do that to him. So
we only have an hour.
There you go. So we'll get things kicked off, guys. So Rich Kimball here with Cross Country Mortgage and Kimball Team. We're excited today, really, really excited because Jim is a great source of information for us, and we've been using him. Jim, you've been open 12 years now, 13 years?
This is going on 12. Yeah, this is the 11th year.
Okay, so we've been working with Jim essentially since he opened. So I'm going to read his bio, which gives some people time to get registered and get in, tell you guys a little bit about how the program will work, and then we'll go from there. Well, I'll talk about the program working first of all. Everybody's muted. Obviously, you guys can't see yourselves. It's going to be just me and Jim, our faces. But at some point, we're going to minimize our faces and get into a PowerPoint that will talk about credit. So if you guys want to interact with us, there's a chat room. It's a great place to ask questions. We're relying on you guys to ask questions because that's the way everybody learns. We might also have some prizes for best question. Who knows? So I got a couple things that I want to offer you guys and some things we're actually going to be teaching on in the future. And we're going to talk about that. Make sure you stick around to the end, because we have future classes coming up that I think are going to be really, really beneficial to you outside of credit. Again, we're here to help you guys with your finances in every area, and we're going to talk a lot of different things. So stick around for that. Now, outline. So Jim is the president and owner and founder of Illinois Credit Services. We rely on Jim to help our clients when their credit scores are not so good or they need to get a couple more points to qualify for a specific loan program. So Jim is a certified FICO Pro. He's also a member of the National Ethics Association. He is also an expert witness in court when the trial involves anything that has to do with credit. He's featured on CNBC. You'll see some links in his website, some articles that he's provided for CNBC. One of the things that we like best about Jim is, from a credit standpoint, locally owned, right here in Plainfield. So when our clients deal with him, they're dealing with somebody that, you know, if they wanted to, they could drive down and see his office. But I'm not sure with COVID that's possible, but I can let you talk about that, Jim. We really, really enjoy our relationship with him. Normally, for a lot of things, I have 2 vendors for everything. I don't have 2 vendors when it comes to credit repair. And that's just a testament to how happy our clients are when they work with Jim. So with that, Jim, I'm going to turn it over to you, and then I'm going to basically just monitor the chat and get the questions in while you go through the program.
Sure. Awesome. Thanks, Rich. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to share my screen and talk a little bit through this. Yeah, credit it's always challenging, first of all, first thing in the morning to keep people awake and talk about credit, but we're going to do our best here. So there's so much to know about credit and how it works. And let me start my slideshow here. Ta-da. That's what you get when your daughter in high school helps you put your PowerPoint together. So you get some cool slides transition. So anyway, like Rich was saying, there's so much to know about credit. Credit is confusing. Credit is something that people just, they're never taught anything about credit. So we're going to go through quite a few things today. Like Rich was saying, ask questions. This is the time. Anything that you might have on your mind about credit, I'll be able to answer it for you. And so we're going to talk about some things about scores and how to work on repairing your credit, fixing your credit, making it better. Some things that you don't realize that the credit bureaus maybe do that maybe aren't always in your best interest. So let's kind of get into a little bit. This is something that I'm always big about explaining who I am. Rich kind of covered some of this stuff. I believe that when it comes to talking to somebody about credit, there has to be somebody you can trust. There's a lot of internet type credit repair companies or credit experts out there that they'll tell you what you want to hear. A lot of them don't understand everything that there really should be to know about credit. So you have to be careful who you listen to. So yeah, there's a lot of things I've done on Channel 2 and CNBC, and I've taught classes for 8 years at the College of DuPage and some other things that Rich mentioned. So there's a lot of good articles here. These are all articles that CNBC has written about me. If you just put in CNBC and my name, that you'll see a whole bunch of stuff. And there's interesting articles about maximum debt ratios, or how you should manage your debt ratios, how to get a perfect 850 credit score, a whole bunch of different topics. So, after today, of course, we'll try to answer a lot of these questions today, but you might find additional sources for some answers to your questions here too. So the things we're going to try to cover today is why credit is important, how it works, some changes that are happening, because the credit, without knowing it, things are always changing and developing in the credit world. It's kind of things that people don't really ever know or see about, and you see the pieces that they want you to see, not necessarily the things you need to know. So, and again, we'll talk about how to improve credit. Let's kind of get into it right away. I like to bring this up because people don't really understand who the credit bureaus are. I use the analogy of Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. You think of them like General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler. These are very, very large corporations, very powerful corporations. They make billions of dollars, and we are not their customer. We are the product that they sell. They compile information about us, and they create credit reports, and they sell that information. So they don't really care about servicing us so much. And so this slide right here, this is the out of all companies in the country, the top 5 most complained about companies per year since 2014. Now it's actually worse now with COVID since 2018. But if you look at the top 3, the 3 credit bureaus they always are in the top 3 of all companies. I'm talking about all the banks, all the, Verizon, everybody, Verizon's on my list, but it's so there's a lot of complaints that they have about them, and they're not really concerned about helping us as consumers fix our credit or improve things or understand it. This is just another slide that just shows, and these are government slides, by the way. This is from the FTC, from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. These are independent government complaint databases, and they're the ones that say that how many complaints that these companies have. So let's talk about why they don't really care about helping us. Okay, we all know when people have problems with their credit, they tend to get charged higher interest rates or maybe be told no and they can't buy something. And so, when there's typically lenders charge more money, higher interest, right? So sometimes they have that reason for, why they may, not that they favor low credit scores, but why does a credit bureau care about a low credit score? And this is not so obvious because people don't really see this information. So to understand it, take 2 scenarios: somebody that has a 750 credit score and a 550 credit score. And each person wants to get a car loan, a mortgage, and a credit card, right? Well, if you're a 750, you're probably going to have 3 total credit inquiries for those 3 purchases. But if you're a 550, you don't get approved for an auto. Well, you might get approved for an auto loan, but they're going to do a thing called shotgunning your credit. We all hear about this. The car dealership sent my credit to 10 places. And that's very common. In the mortgage world, I don't believe you can do a loan with 550. Rich might have some programs for that, but I mean, typically that's not a number that qualifies. So you're going to have more than 1 inquiry. Same thing with credit cards. So here's the thing: the same 3 purchases, when you're a 550 credit score, you're going to have 10 to 14 inquiries for those 3 purchases versus 3 inquiries. Now think about this. What do credit bureaus sell? They sell credit reports. They're going to sell 10 to 14 credit reports in a scenario when people have a 550 score versus 3 when people have a 750 credit score. Now, when you do the math on that and multiply it times 220 million people, it's a lot of money. So if everybody had an 800 credit score, a 750 credit score, they wouldn't sell quite as many credit reports. And, so again, just do the math on that. So there's some reasons why you don't see this. The reason why you don't really notice this is nobody charges you for the credit report typically. It's so you don't really see that cost, but it does exist. Here, real quick, the impact of low credit scores on a car loan. This is just simple math. You can figure this out, but it really kind of hits you when you see the numbers. If you buy a $25,000 car loan, your credit's good, and you do it for 6 years, which is very typical now. I think the average number of months is 74 months now. At 5.9, your payment's $413. It's total interest of about $4,800. If you have credit issues and you're willing to pay, instead of $413, you pay $597 for the same loan amount at 19.9, your total payments are $43,000. You're going to pay $13,000 more in interest for that same loan based on your credit. And that's the things that people don't really realize, because nobody talks about their loans or their payments when they walk out of a car dealership. But again, we're here to talk about mortgages primarily, but the point is credit affects everything that you want to do. This is just an interesting slide. I testified in federal court on this one a couple of years ago. This is the impact of insurance from your credit. And they do run your credit. A lot of people don't realize that. They run your credit when they give you quotes for insurance. And if you just look at it, the poor credit, right? That's the premium of $25.39. You got bad credit, your premiums are going to be higher. Now, this is the average cost in Illinois, okay, for a household. Now, look at the cost. If you have excellent credit to the right, excellent credit with a DUI, your credit, it's actually cheaper to have good credit in a DUI than to have poor credit and a great driving record. So I don't want to get into all the details on it, but the information is staggering how much weight they put on your credit reports and credit scores. So let's start getting into how this really works. 20% of the population has a score of 599 or less, under 600. It's 1/5 of everybody. So there's a lot of people that need help and understanding about how their credit works. And honestly, if you have an 800 credit score, people still need to understand how it works. So in any of these slides too, by the way, I know there's a lot of information on these. There's something that catches somebody's eye. If they want to email Rich or whatever, let me know and I can send this stuff out to people.
Hey, Jim, I'm going to go back to that slide real quick one more time, because I want to point out something that most people don't understand.
Yeah.
There you go. You should be able to get back to that. There we go. So there's a column in here that says 650 to 699, and you didn't highlight that, although that's literally 13% of the population, or at least it was back in 17. So that's 13% of the population. The reason I'm picking on that particular score range is because Fannie Mae, they begin to charge higher interest rates once people's scores drop down below 760. So, and it's every 20 points below 760. So on a conventional loan, if your credit score is 699, you're literally 4 tiers below what their best pricing is. So there's another, you talk about that first 25%, there's another 13% that could be helped by having better credit information. And it could be the difference between a quarter of a point on a 30-year mortgage. It's pretty dramatic. So even in those bands, even the 700 to 749, those folks are going to pay a little bit more than their high watermark, which is 760. So go ahead, Jim. I just wanted to point that
that's
out.
a good point. If you look at the math, I mean, it's 750 or less. That's 64% of the population is 750 or less. So yeah, I mean, it's staggering. So anyway, you may have seen this or felt a version of this. You go to a car dealership, they tell you your score is a 512 FICO score, right? And you get your credit card statement that says it's a 618. You're thinking, okay, what changed? Rich pulls the credit. He might tell you it's a 561 FICO score. Experian tells you, you log on, you're like, I'm going to get the information right from the horse's mouth. So you go to Experian, they say it's 627. Then you go to Credit Karma, it's 644. They're all over the place. This is a very, very realistic scenario of your scores seem like they're a ping pong ball all over the place. So people will ask, what's the real score? The fact is, they're all real scores. They're all correct scores, because scores are nothing more than an opinion about your credit report. You don't have one credit score out there. Okay, you have literally hundreds of credit scores that are grading your credit reports at any different time. Now, people tend to see FICO. What's my FICO score? Which that is the relevant score, really, because there's, that's the one that the lenders use 90% of the times. The problem is that what you're really not told is that there's 28 different FICO models that are commercially being used. So,
Hey, Jim, can we back up a second too? I think it's really important to establish the difference. FICO is an acronym for what?
Oh, yeah.
And then explain, and hopefully I'm not cutting ahead.
No.
Then explain not only what does the acronym mean, that's my question,
sure.
And why is that different than Experian, TransUnion, or Equifax? So,
yeah, well, it's not different than the 3 bureaus here. The 3 bureaus are the 3 bureaus. They create the credit reports. No matter where the credit reports are delivered, if Rich pulls the credit, or if you go to Credit Karma, the reports are the reports. The information is exactly the same. Now, the reports are always changing. They're always, things are getting updated. But if everybody accessed your credit at the same time, everyone gets delivered the same information. It's just packaged differently. It looks differently. So depending on what the purpose of why the credit report was accessed, it's going to be scored. And a score is it's a model. It's an algorithm that's going to give an opinion about that credit report. Now, FICO stands for Fair Isaac Corporation. That is, they're math people. It's a statistics company. It's a company that in 1989, the 3 credit bureaus hired FICO to create credit scores. There were no credit scores before 1989. the bureaus were selling credit reports to lenders, and lenders are, analyzing the data. And so they created these credit scores to help them figure out how to analyze that data. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. The problem is all these different algorithms, they're different. They're going to give a different score. Now, I show this slide because this is a really, really good live example of my daughter's credit report that just is a little bit mind-blowing about how different these scores are. We went to a car dealership. A friend of mine runs the dealership. He gave us the copy of the credit report. It's a TransUnion credit report. Now, this is one TransUnion credit report on one specific date on July 3rd. If you look where the circle is down here, they ran the one report through two different auto loan scoring models. One's called an auto score 8, one's called an auto score 4. They have different algorithms that calculate things a little bit differently, but look at how different it really is. One score is 668, the other score is an 844. It's mind-blowing. It's 176 points difference. It's the same exact credit report, the same exact day, scored by two different models for FICO. Now, why does a dealership use two different models? Because they have lenders some lenders will use the FICO 4 and some lenders will use the FICO 8. And they're going to run them both because depending on what's more favorable, they're going to send the loan to the one that has the higher score. And this is a great example of, they're going to find a lender that uses FICO 4. So, what I want to talk about now is what these scores really mean. And by the way, when you go to Credit Karma, that is not a FICO score. Most of the scores that you're going to see as a consumer, if you go to Credit Karma or Credit Sesame or all these different websites that are selling you credit monitoring, those are called a Vantage score. It looks kind of similar because all these scores have in the range of 300 to 850. You're never going to see a credit score that says your score is 2,312. They have a similar range, really to create confusion, because you're not going to pay for a score that doesn't matter. You just don't know which ones matter and which ones don't. So why did they create all this confusion? Why are they trying to mess with you and have all these different scores? The fact is, they did not create credit scores for us to be talking about right now. Credit scores were designed to help a lender make a decision. Remember, 1989, they created credit scores to help these lenders figure out one thing if they want to lend you money, right? So lenders don't really come out and say this, but there's kind of one question and one answer that they're really trying to figure out. If I lend you money, are you going to pay me? That's kind of it, right? I mean, now lenders are smart. They know how to read a credit report. They can see what's on there. That's not really necessarily what concerns them so much. What they're concerned with is what you're going to do in the future if they lend you money. So the scores are not calculating what you've done in the past, which is what most people think. And it's a common assumption, right? Because as a consumer, you're just trying to figure it out, right? So you have a credit report, you have information, you have a score. It seems like that would be a grade of your past performance when it's actually a prediction of the future. FICO scores are predicting the likelihood of a consumer becoming 90 days or more delinquent on any particular obligation within the next 24 months. Okay, that's the score. They're trying to figure out, are you going to go late from this point on in the next 24 months? It's extremely important to understand that concept. It's not hard to follow that. It's just as long as somebody explains it. But once you understand that, a lot of things are going to start to make sense in the whole how credit works and how improving your credit works. So it's not about what you've done as much as it is about what you're going to do. Okay. Now it also starts to make sense, like why there's different scores. Like the credit card company has a model that's designed to predict likelihood that you're going to go late on a credit card. The mortgage industry scores are designed to predict what's the likelihood you're going to go late on a mortgage within the next 24 months. So because there's a different likelihood of someone paying their car loan late versus their mortgage late versus their credit cards late. So each industry has their own specific model. Okay, this is real quick. We're going to cover FICO here. Okay, not so much Vantage score, but I want to just point out, if you just look at this quick breakdown, don't overanalyze it, but just look at it, the numbers are different, right? This is why you get different scores. FICO calculates things one way, Vantage Score calculates another. And by the way, Vantage Score was created by the 3 credit bureaus. They own and operate Vantage Score. They created it in 2006 for one reason, to keep market share, or to take the market share back from FICO. FICO became a billion-dollar corporation, creating scoring models and then riding the coattails of the credit bureaus. The credit bureaus want those billions back, so they created their own models. The problem is they haven't been able to leverage their scoring models for use in the lending space, but that's coming. And so when you see, I just want you to be aware of Vantage Score. It's coming hard, and you're going to be hearing more and more about it in the future. So what I want to talk about, though, is these FICO scores and how these scores, how they calculate, and things you can do to improve your credit. So there's 5 basic components. We're going to break each one
Hey,
of these
Jim.
down. Yeah.
Jim, before you get into that, I just want to remind anybody at any point as Jim's going through this, you guys hit the chat room, throw some questions at us. But this is kind of, now we're into the meat of this, so I'm excited. This pie, this is the pie people don't see what goes on. So
yeah, absolutely. Questions are better asked now at the moment versus at the end. So type them in the chat box. Rich will bring them up. So yeah, so let's just, chances are if you have a question, somebody else has a question similar to that anyway. So let's talk about this first component. Now, when it talks about delinquencies is anything derogatory. You didn't pay something, right? Whether that's a collection, whether that's a late payment, a charge off, a bankruptcy, anything like that. That's a, and by the way, tax liens and judgments no longer appear on your credit reports. They're still found in the mortgage process through the court system, but they do not impact your credit scores anymore. But delinquencies in general, it's 35% of your score. Now, most people think that delinquencies are, 50, 60%, so like much higher than 35%. And the reason why it's 35% is that just because you had something happen in the past doesn't mean you're going to have another delinquency in the future. It's certainly relevant. The past does predict the future, but it's not necessarily, you're not necessarily punished for having something bad on your credit in the past. It's because they feel that if it happened in the past, it could happen again in the future. So what they look at in this category is how recently a derogatory payment or derogatory incident has happened. So if you have a recent collection, a new collection on your credit report is going to have a far more severe impact on your scores versus a collection has been on there for 4 years ago. How severe it was. A 30-day late payment has a different delinquency impact than a charge off. And how many times is it happening? Are you going late on everything, or so there's a lot of common sense components that they'll look at when they calculate these scores. So it's a simple answer. You want to avoid delinquencies, right? To lessen that. And time does heal these things. And we're going to talk about some things about credit repair and challenging things later on. But I want to cover some of these components first. Debt ratios this is the biggest one that you have the ability to really control, and it has as big of an impact, or almost as big of an impact, as late payments. This is not debt to income. Debt to income, your credit reports have no idea of your income. They just don't know anything about it. It's not reported. Even if it says your job on your credit report, your job status, if you're, a surgeon or, whatever, or, collecting unemployment, none of that matters on your credit reports for scoring purposes. Now, so this is just debt ratios. What this is your calculation of your balances on your credit cards in relation to your credit limits. Okay. That means, and this is 30% of your score, by the way. This is almost as important as your delinquencies, which is 30%. So what they're trying to do in the way these scoring models look at this is they're looking to see how you're managing your credit cards. And this ratio is basically, if you got $1,000 credit limit, if you charge up $500, you're at 50%. If you charge up 900, you're at 90%. If you charge 200, you're at 20%. They use the percentage that you're charging, not the dollar amount. Now, This is where people get in trouble when they're trying to rebuild or reestablish their credit, or they keep getting store cards. Don't get store cards. Don't close credit cards either, too. I'll talk about that in a second. But you want to have the highest credit limits you can always. If you have a credit card that has a $300 credit limit or a $200 limit, or for whatever reason, that's just your limit, or you're starting out there and you're trying to build your credit, be very, very careful how much you use, because I talk to people every day that they'll charge a couple tanks of gas, maybe go out to lunch or do whatever. And all of a sudden that $300 card at the end of the month, you may owe $250. You may pay that payment on time. Maybe you can't afford to pay it all, and the minimum payment's $25 and you pay $30, $40, something like that. But the problem is they're going to use the percentage of your ratios of your balance to your limit. So $250 divided by 300, that's going to equal about 80 to 85% of your credit limit. You absolutely could be dropping your credit scores doing that, even though you're paying the payment on time. So you have to be very careful with that. And
Hey, Jim, I've got a question, and this isn't in particular order that they came in, but it may segue into what you're getting into.
Sure.
So Jason asks, and I'll get to the other questions as we go through this, but on the topic of usage versus limit, Jason asked the question, at what ratio does it start to negatively impact your score?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And so this information is very, there's a lot of opinions on Google, and people tend to hear keep your balances at 30%, right? Or less. That's on FICO's blog, actually. The problem is that is not the best way to maximize your credit scores. Okay. It's a nice, easy, I think that they kind of developed that 30% number based on the fact that it's 30% of your score. Those are not related whatsoever. The actual best percentage to keep it around is a single digit. Okay, that means about 5%. That's a target area. You can be anywhere from 3 to 7, 3 to 8. When we work with people, we tell them keep it around 5 to 10%. It's 10% isn't killing your credit scores by any means. But here's the thing: being at 30%, people will get their balance down to 30% and say, I'm doing the best thing that I can for my credit right now. And they are not. Because it doesn't mean that your scores are going to shoot through the roof if you go from 30 down to 5%. But the fact is, if you want to maximize this particular category, you need to show extreme, conservative use. Remember the phrase, use but don't abuse. Now here, if you're at 30%, that is better than being at 50. But if you're at 70, get it down to 50. That's better. If you're at 100, get it down to, you know what I mean? So it keeps getting better and better, but your target should always be around 5 to 10% of the credit limit. Now, there is no memory in a credit score, meaning that if you owe that, if you're, this is where credit scores, you can see your credit scores kind of ride a roller coaster too, because if it gets reported and you have a high balance, let's say it's, 250, and you're at 85% and your scores go down like this. Well, as soon as it gets paid off and it gets updated, your scores are going to go back up again. So it's scored at the moment in time of whatever's on that credit report. Now, we are going to talk about something a little later called trended data that's tracking how much you're paying on your payments. But you really want to be around the single digit. Now,
hey, Jim, so I got one other, if assuming you made your point on that, I got one other. It's kind of a decent follow-up from Scott. So Scott asks, what happens if you don't have any credit cards for your credit?
Excellent question.
Or credit score.
There is a theory somewhat of, hey, if I don't have any credit cards, I can't go late. If I don't go late, I can't have bad credit. And that's just not how it works. And that's where what credit scores are trying to do is analyze the data to make predictions about you. You have to give them clues to things that you're doing. And a $500 credit card has a bigger impact, or can have a bigger impact on your credit scores than a $25,000 car loan. It just doesn't make sense to people. It's like the bigger, $25,000 or $50,000 car loan should be more meaningful. It's really not, because think about, those are installment loans. Car loans are installment loans. You pretty much have two choices. You either pay it or you don't, right? But if you have a credit card, think about all the choices that you're exposing the scoring models to. You could charge up the whole thing and pay the minimum. You can charge the whole thing and pay it all off. You could charge a little, pay a little. You could keep it in your drawer and never use it at all. But what you're doing is you're providing them clues about good things and bad things, your financial responsibility, how you're managing your credit. In the absence of, if you don't have any credit cards, you're not providing those clues. So they don't have enough good, solid information to be confident of your ability to pay your bills on time. So you're not going to give them information to improve your scores. Does that make sense?
So the end result is if you don't have credit cards at all, you're not going to be able to reach the maximum credit score
Absolutely.
values.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So a follow-up, Scott had one quick follow-up question, and I'm not sure I quite understand. Let me go see if I can see his first. I guess, does having a secured credit card, is that better than no credit cards at all?
Yep.
I think that's where he was going with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's better than no credit cards at all. And just briefly, a secured credit card is you can find that possibly at your bank. So if you have a lower credit score, you can go to your bank and some other companies. Jim could probably tell us where.
Yeah, we have links. I can send links for the ones that we suggest our clients to use. But yeah, I mean, and a credit report has no ability to differentiate between secured or unsecured. They don't score them different. It might say secured or unsecured on the report, but it's not part of the FICO scoring model.
Okay. All right. So Patrick actually was our first question to, and sorry, Lisa. Lisa asked me a question, but it wasn't to you. So our first question to you gets a choice of a book. Patrick, you'll have to let me know what you want. Both of them are great. Both of them are great. One is The Richest Man in Babylon. So we're doing a couple of little door prizes, some fun. And the other one is The Latte Factor. Patrick, let me know which one you want. We'll make sure we get that out to you. Both are great books about building financial wealth. So Patrick's question is, and again, he started first, but it wasn't particularly on the usage topic. How long does a bankruptcy gravely impact your credit score? And yeah, okay, so okay, let's cover the first question. I got a follow-up from him to that. So
how much does a bankruptcy, or how long does it impact credit?
How long does a bankruptcy gravely impact your credit score? So I guess significantly impact.
Yeah,
like when does that start fading?
You know, you have to define gravely or significantly, because does that stop you from getting a loan? That would be considered gravely, I guess. And, you know, in most mortgage world, it's 2 years that you just can't apply for after a Chapter 7. But from a credit scoring perspective, it's really after a bankruptcy. You know, it's going to impact your credit for at any point while it's on the credit, but severely. You can start rebuilding right away. And what you don't want to do is ever have delinquencies after the bankruptcy. A lot of lenders and a lot of even the scoring models, they understand there's that reset button sometimes that in life it needs to be, you got to use it. But it's really about what you're doing afterwards. So, I mean, there's some loan programs that you can't have a bankruptcy on your credit report, period, for any type of special credit card or things like that. So, there's some degree of impact, but severe impact, I'd probably say it's within a couple of years, and then it starts becoming less relevant. But it really is about how you build up the credit from there. And that's some of the things that we help people with too, as well.
Yeah, and I want to, and Patrick's got a follow up, but I want to make mention of that. I think Jim makes a very good point. Gravely impact just depends on what you're applying for. But I will tell you that so we sell loans directly to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Ginnie Mae. We do occasionally sell loans to other places. And some of those places basically have their own, it's called an overlay in my business, but they have their own rules that basically say, oh, that person had a bankruptcy. We don't want to talk to them for 7 years, even though the guideline might be 2 to 4 years. That lender said, nope. And more importantly, if the lender that I would consider selling that loan to was included somewhere on your bankruptcy, even if it was with a credit card, that lender actually has guidelines that says that's a hard stop. You filed on us at one point. We lost money. We're not, we choose not to lend to you, and they can do that. So the follow-up for Patrick's question was, 8 years down the road, and I think you kind of touched on this, and I want to also point this out. I've seen people 2 years out of a bankruptcy when they've consulted and worked with somebody like Jim who have 750 credit scores. So, because they've worked on what he talked about, which is reestablishing your credit. Now, Patrick asks, what is the impact on my credit after 8 years down the road, because a bankruptcy will last typically 10 years on your credit. So where is it 8 years? And I think you kind of touched on that. It really depends on what you've done to reestablish your credit, but it's going to have some impact. Is that correct, Jim?
Yeah, and there's actually a slide, I think, that we're probably not going to have a lot of time to cover, but there's a slide in here that I think that I put in that gives you an example of the recovery time period for different events, including bankruptcies or late payments or things like that. Here's the thing. You have to always remember that scores are predicting future delinquency. What are you going to do from the next 2 years on? Now, if you have a bankruptcy in your past, it's an indicator of a serious adverse life event, right? So, but something that happened 8 years ago is not necessarily an indicator of what's going to happen in the next 2 years. So you're never going to have an 800 credit score with a bankruptcy on your credit report. It just isn't going to happen, but you don't necessarily need an 800 credit score to buy certain things. It's just, time does heal things too. It's really about is when something like that happens, you want to work with somebody generally to try to repair or lessen some of the bad things on the credit report, but also immediately start building the right mix of good credit. That's the really, really important part. I wouldn't worry so much about things that are on there that are really, really old.
So let's talk about another delinquency type of scenario. Scott asks, how do medical bills affect credit? Now, I assume he means medical collections, so we'll talk about it in that regard. How do medical collections affect credit score?
Yeah, so that answer can be a little bit of a rabbit hole because remember all these different scoring models that there are. They treat medical collections differently, and for the purposes of what we're all on this call, this meeting about, is generally for a mortgage. And so there are models out there that will, more recent models, and think of these scoring models like iPhone generations. They had flip phones, they had iPhone 4, iPhone 5, 6, 8, 10, 12, whatever it is. Every time something new comes out, they change it, right? Well, the newer models for the scoring algorithms, they devalue medical bills. They look at that and say, hey, a lot of good people have medical collections on their credit. So some of these models devalue and don't put so much weight into a medical collection. Same thing, or if you pay it, some scoring models will actually reward your points if you pay a collection. Now, a lot of people are out there paying their collections thinking that that's the right thing to do. It is to pay your debts. Here's the thing. When you're trying to get a mortgage, those rules don't apply, because in the mortgage industry, and this is not the mortgage companies choosing, they would rather change their scoring models, but they are forced by federal law to use the FICO models that were developed in 1999. They're using flip phones of scoring models right now still. And it's not their choice. By federal law, they have to. And until that changes, and it may change somewhere in the future, but for right now, you have to play by those rules. Back then, medical collections were the same thing as any other collection on your credit report. It doesn't matter. It also doesn't matter if you pay it. If you pay it, a collection, which this is a little counterintuitive, but if you pay a collection, it could actually drop your credit scores on the mortgage models. So that's why it's extremely important to, before you take actions that you think make sense in your mind, which, again, paying your bills is a good thing to do, but don't do things that you think are right, thinking that, somebody told you on Facebook or something, and because you could actually be taking a step back and dropping your credit scores without even realizing why you're doing it.
So, Jim, Stephanie has a great question. She said, and this is really good. It pertains, I think, to what you do, but where do you start up again if you've been, let's say, neglecting your credit, life experience happened, something to you? I mean, we're getting through we're in the back end of a pandemic. A lot of people were impacted significantly. So I think this is just such a great question. Where do you begin to start up to improve your credit when you're back on your feet financially and you have the means to start making payments and things like that?
The short answer would be me, I would say, honestly. It really only because you need to get some guidance from a professional. But I mean, absent of that, you need to take a hard look at your credit report. And it's really about, there's some things that we can talk about, repairing credit and things. You need to have less bad things. Don't assume that everything on your credit report is accurate and correct, first off. And so here, like medical bills, nobody ever borrows money from a medical collection agency. No, you never went to have a medical procedure done at a collection agency's office. So what gave them the right to put it on your credit report? There's a lot of different strategies where you want to lessen those bad items on your credit report, but then also start building your credit. You may need to get a secured card or two. And there's not necessarily an exact answer. I mean, there's some concepts, less bad, more good, start building, things like that. But really consulting with a professional that's the first place you want to make sure that you're doing the right things and somebody that can maybe help you work towards improving the credit. That's where I would say to start. But here, starting sooner than later, that's a key. I talk to people that like, hey, remember I talked to you 2 years ago? Well, I'm ready now. That's, you want to get that going as quickly as you can because time helps heal things too. So.
Perfect. All right, let's jump back into the slides, but great questions, a great start. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Okay. On these debt ratios, I'm just going to tell you one thing. We already talked about the percentage. They use the aggregate of all your cards together, by the way. So if you have 2 credit cards and you don't want to close any credit cards, that's a short answer. We can talk more about it later, but we're going to run out of time before long here. Don't close any credit cards. Stay away from store credit cards. Stick with the Visas, MasterCards, the big bank cards. The store cards tend to have lower limits. Plus, you need to have more of them. If you have a Target card, you're going to go get a Kohl's card. You have a Kohl's card, you're going to get a Macy's card. You don't need all those cards. You need to have 2 or 3 bank type cards, the Visas and MasterCards, and manage those the right way. Now, if you have these store cards already, don't close them. Don't close any credit card ever. The only time you actually want to close a credit card at some point is if you have a secured card and you want to get that security deposit back. That's a different scenario. We can talk about that later on, but you don't want to close their credit cards. Average age of your file, this is 15% of your score. There's not a lot to talk about this other than you just want to start making sure you're establishing credit as soon as possible and keep it open for as long as possible without actually even, long before I even knew I would end up in the credit industry. I still have my original first credit card that I opened in 1984 from Chase when I was a sophomore in college at UIC. I got off the L and they were giving out boxes of Fannie Mae chocolates for applying for a credit card. And I got one and I still have that card open today, which it's kind of surprising, but that's good long history, right? So, and then closing credit cards, you just don't do that for, a lot of different reasons. Just keep them open. Oops, there we go. Mix of credit. This is important. This kind of touches on a previous question about what if you just don't have credit cards? You need to have a sample size of different types of credit that you're managing. If you have 3 car loans and no credit cards, they want to see you managing each of a different thing. I mean, you can't necessarily just go out and get a mortgage to build your credit, right? That's not the answer. But, in the algorithm, they want to see you managing that big debt, the smaller credit card type obligations, and then one installment loan, which an installment loan can be a student loan, car loan. If you really think about it, you probably have one, right? You probably have a car loan, usually. So don't think of, I got to go get more car loans or more installment loans. It's usually the credit cards that you're going to start with your rebuilding. Okay, inquiries. This is a big source of confusion here. First off, an inquiry is you cannot lower your credit scores by looking at your credit. Somebody has to have a permissible purpose. That's the definition under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. And that permissible purpose generally comes from you, but not always. There's, collection agencies can run your credit. They can do it's permissible purpose. Now, there's 2 types of inquiries. There's hard inquiries and soft inquiries. There's a little bit of you know, this varies a little bit, but just think of this. Hard inquiries are lender inquiries. Everything else is soft. That's it. That's kind of the generic answer. Um, Meaning that if a car loan company runs your credit, mortgage company, credit card, anyone that can extend you credit, that's a hard inquiry. Now, if you want to go, if you want to, when we're done here, if you want to pull your credit reports from every single place you can find, that's a soft inquiry. Now, remember, what's the purpose of a credit score? Predicting future delinquency. If you want to look at your credit report 10 times today, 20 times tomorrow, and keep doing that over and over, you looking at your credit has no bearing on your ability to pay your bills. But if you're shopping, go over here, or you're trying to buy something here, you're trying to do that, that could. So that accounts for about 10% of your credit scores. Now, all inquiries, hard and soft, will stay on your credit report for 24 months. Don't worry about that, because only hard inquiries affect your scores for 12 months. That's it. Okay. So as soon as an inquiry, a hard inquiry, is 366 days old, yes, it's on your credit report, but it is no longer an impact on your scores. Now, and soft inquiries never affect your scores at all. Now, there is a thing called deduplication logic, inquiry compression logic. There's a lot of different phrases for it, but basically, this is where you may see that the car dealership ruined my credit. The car dealership sent ran my credit, 10 times here, 12 times here, whatever, and they dropped my credit scores. Well, that actually doesn't happen. I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but here's the thing. The federal government kind of stepped in and told FICO, hey, you got to allow people the ability to shop. And then they said, okay, that makes sense. So they created this deduplication logic around 1998, I think it was. And basically what it is, it applies to three types of purchases: mortgage loans, car loans, and student loans. Those are the big purchases that people have the ability to shop for, not credit cards at all. And basically, all the inquiries dated within 30 to 45 days, because different models have different windows, but just call it 30 days. Any of the inquiries within 30 days of each other, if they're for the same purchase, they're going to compress and count as only one inquiry for scoring purposes. So if you go to the Ford dealership this week, and then tomorrow you go to the Chevy dealership, and you keep going back and forth, and all of a sudden you had no idea, and you find out that, wow, I have 38 inquiries from going shopping for a car loan, and you think that your scores have really been impacted because you can see your scores drop. If your scores dropped, if all those inquiries are dated within 30 days of each other, your scores did not drop because of the inquiries. There was something else on your credit report that made that happen. And sometimes that's balances on credit cards, things like that. But it's not, now they look bad, right? I mean, they're there. You can't, you're going to see them. And there's other reasons in the auto loan industry why the inquiries actually aren't good to have on there, but for scoring purposes, don't freak out about it. It's only 10% of your score, and they only count as one inquiry anyway. Okay.
And Jim, I want to touch on one important thing on this too, because we get this a lot. Like, I don't really want you guys pulling my credit because I just had it pulled by so-and-so, or, the bank's already got me approved, and, I don't want to do that. So ultimately, it's a really good point that once the bank or whoever the other company was in my industry has run your credit, my inquiry is negligible. It's not an impact, providing, again, it was within the 30 to 45 days. My point to knowing that information is, if you started with the bank and you're talking to me, there's a reason, probably a customer service issue. If you want better service, don't let this fear of the inquiry be the issue, because you're going to get better service. Let us do what we need to do, get that inquiry, get that in there and done. One other thing on inquiries, from our perspective, we only go back about 120 days, 90 to 120 days, as far as anything we would ask questions about. So we don't, when Jim's talking about 2 years worth of inquiries, we only really care about the last 90 days, because there's a possibility that my applicant for a home mortgage also maybe just opened up some credit, which hasn't hit the credit report. So we're just going to ask some basic questions like, hey, did you get that car loan when you went and inquired on that? So that's all we really care. And it's really just a simple little letter, form letter we send, like, hey, tell us about these 2 inquiries that you had in the last 3 months. Now, we do have a question from Lisa, who ironically asked the first question. So I do want to let her know that she still has a choice. Patrick did take, which one? Patrick did take this, but we still have more of these. So congratulations, Lisa. You also won a book since you were the first question. Just text me or send it in the chat what you want. Her question, Jim, is this. So you had a couple slides back, you had your typical, like, I got a mortgage, I got a car, I got 4 credit cards, it's optimal. Her question is, what if you have a mortgage, 1 credit card, and no car loan? Should you get another credit card? I think I might be able to take that after listening to you. I think more credit you could show, probably the better, but I'll let the expert provide that answer.
Here's the thing. There's not a one size fits all, and really there's probably more on the credit report anyway. And I don't like giving specific advice without seeing the whole report, because nothing exists in a vacuum. I mean, theoretically, yeah, you should get another credit card probably. But you know, again, there's a lot of variables on the credit scores that are on the credit reports that don't take that answer as yes, go out and do it, because it also depends. I mean, sometimes opening up new credit right away could, you know, go out and get 2 credit cards, that could cause your scores to drop a little bit because you're going out and accessing new credit quickly. So it also, you have to balance out everything that's on the credit report with also what your immediate goals are. Is there a long-term goal or a short-term goal? And so again, in general, yeah, if you have 1 credit card, you want to start building a little more credit than that for sure. But, you know, again, I'd rather give a more specific answer by actually looking at the credit report. And by the way, anyone on this meeting, if they ever wanted me to analyze or look at their credit reports, there's no charge for me to do that. I'm always willing and to offer information and advice about things like that. So
that's a really, really great service, by the way, to have his expert to do that. So that's awesome. All right, so Scott has a question. Let's see. This one's kind of more for me. If somebody has bad credit, is there a difference between putting down 20% instead of 3.5% FHA when applying for a mortgage? So I'm going to address that just, Scott, as it pertains to the FHA. FHA guidelines actually go from a credit score standpoint down to a low score of 500. Yes, they will lend down to 500. However, under 580, they require at least 10% down. So over 580, you can get into an FHA mortgage with 3.5% down, assuming you're approved and all the other factors, work, income, and everything else we're going to be looking at. Under 580, though, minimum of 10% down. Now, the reason people don't really know that you can lend under 580 is because a lot of lenders just frankly don't do it. They feel it's risky. Cross country has a little bit different perspective. Like Jim said, life happens to some people, whether it was a one-time event or something like that. If somebody's coming to us and has 25 to 30% down, and let's say they just went through a divorce, so their credit got a little roughed up, which is pretty common, we're still going to look at that on a whole. If that client can afford that mortgage, we're still going to make that mortgage and sell that to Jenny Mae or who's going to insure it. So just real quick, like, we'll lend whatever FHA will lend, providing we can get it approved through automated underwriting, which is once you start showing bigger down payments on FHA, that's possible. So, all right. All right. So Jason asks, Jim, how many points will your score go up if you bring your credit balance from 30% plus down to under 10%? Need to know how many points exactly.
Well, yeah,
I know.
That's an answer that it's a 2-word answer that applies to most things in the world of credit, and that is, it depends. Because again, nothing exists in a vacuum, so it really depends on everything else in your report. So there's no really way to look at that and just say, I mean, I'd have to see a report and here, I can promise you this: if you have the ability to get it down to 10%, just do it. and then you're maximizing your scores, because, you know, there's always scores are always, it's called a healthy score migration. They're always kind of fluctuating up and down with a, you know, 5 to 15%, or not percent, but 5 to 15 point variation up and down. So it's a question I can't answer, especially without looking at a credit report anyway.
Yeah, you know what? I think your answer that you gave really was the best. If you want to maximize your score, get it down under 10%, and whatever it's going to improve your bureau as it sits at that time. How many points? Unknown. It's a lot of other factors. Did you have a bankruptcy on there? Do you have a bunch? You know, there's just too many other factors, but it is the best thing you can do relative to improving your score quickly at that time. So Patrick asks, oh, interesting. That's a great question. Patrick asks, if the amount you owe currently on your student loan debt is more than the original balance, how does that impact your credit score? So, for example, student loan might be started at 20,000, but now it's been deferred, some interest is accrued. Now the balance is 22,000. Does that have an impact on your credit score, Jim?
It can. It depends, right? But it does. It doesn't always right away on an installment loan, because balances on installment loans, they actually do trade. It's not nearly what we're talking about right now, is not nearly as relevant as the credit card aspect of it. But for installment loans, they'll take the baseline of what you originally borrowed, and then you can actually start improving your credit as that balance gets down to about 75% or less from that original loan amount. Now, if the balance, there's a lot of, you know, loans that are, you know, they're not being paid back right at the moment, or they're deferred and they're accumulating interest. And a lot of student loans, they tend to, you know, go the opposite way, and they don't initially drop credit scores. But if you start getting, typically, again, some of this is in an algorithm that they don't make it public knowledge, but from what I see, if you start going above 110% or so above that limit, or that original amount you borrowed, then it can start adversely impacting your scores. So how much it impacts it, again, it also depends on what else is going on with your credit. If all you have is student loans and you don't have a credit card, you don't have anything else going on, you know, that's going to have a more serious impact. If you have a lot of good, healthy stuff besides the student loans, then it's going to have an impact, but not quite as much. That's why there's so many variables that go into answering some of the specific questions about scoring. But it's always about the right healthy mix of credit. But, you know, and at some point, yeah, you want to pay those down, because you will start, you know, at some point they're not going to go away. So, you know, but it can impact your credit scores adversely if it starts getting too high.
Jim, Tiffany asks, how impactful is having 2 car notes when you get a home loan? I want to answer it just from from my perspective on the mortgage side. It's impactful because it could potentially take away from your buying ability for getting a mortgage. So there's only a certain debt ratio that most lenders allow, and car payments can eat into that pretty quickly. Especially, we've seen some big car payments this week alone. We've seen a $900 and $1,100 car payment. So that can eat into your buying power pretty quickly. As far as 2 car notes on getting a mortgage for your credit, I don't know, Jim, you answer if there's a response.
It's generally, that's not that big of a deal on credit, you know, especially if they've been open for a while. Or if you just went out and got 2 car loans 3 months ago, that's just going to impact your credit because you got 2 new accounts open. But that is more a question that Rich kind of answered about debt to income ratios than it is a credit issue. You don't want to, you know, the point is that having 4 car loans isn't making your credit seem that awesome, you know. So having a couple car loans, that's kind of typical, but also that depends on if you have other credit card, you know, you got 2 car loans and you got 5 or 6 credit cards too, and a mortgage, you know, then you got to have a healthy mix of credit. You just don't want to overdo anything in any one category.
Okay. I've got another question coming in from Kim. This is probably, I think, where your services are probably needed. So she says, if JP Mortgage never reported, I'm assuming she means JP Morgan Chase as a lender, never reported a closed out mortgage account, so it still shows active with a balance, which is close to the maximum that was borrowed. does this have an effect on score? And she adds that the home was actually sold in 2014. At that time, the loan was paid in full. However, there's no reporting on that today. It's still sitting on this particular person's credit report. And it shows that it's open, and so what impact does that have, number one, and number two, what I'm assuming your services might be helpful in getting that removed.
Yeah, well, that's just a great example of things that are inaccurate on credit reports. I mean, the federal government says that 40 million people have inaccuracies on their credit reports, so that's one of them. And so that's where credit repair and working on fixing things on there is gonna, that can very much help your credit. But if it's on the credit report, scoring models don't know if it's right or not. If it's there, it's there. So that clearly what you just described, from what I'm hearing, is absolutely inaccurate information. And the scoring models are going to score that as an open mortgage, as the way that it reads is what they're going to score. Now, how that's exactly impacting the credit, again, that all depends on everything else on the credit report. But the bottom line is consumers have an absolute right for information to be accurate and correct on their credit report. And you have a right to fix that information and challenge information. And that's not so easy. And there's a lot of other things where, because we had a lot of great questions. So there's some things that I'm not going to have time to cover or get into. Maybe we can do another one of these at some other point to cover some other additional things. But the point is that you don't want to ever ignore your credit reports. You want to fix your credit reports. That's just not easy waters to navigate because, people don't tell you what your rights are under the Fair Credit Reporting Act or the Fair Debts Collections Practices Act. And that's where we try to come in and, help out to correct those errors. So, but yeah, that absolutely is being calculated into the scores. If that's having an adverse or positive impact, that I'm not sure without actually seeing the report.
Yeah, and again, I'm going to actually add, there we go. I'm going to add Jim's contact information here. Looks like I was redundant, might have added it twice, but we'll put it in there too. So Jim, we're getting close to the tail end where we want to wrap this up. I want to, and we had some amazing questions. So thank you everybody. I want to, Jim, is there anything in there that we haven't touched on that you're like, hey, everybody that spent the time here needs to at least know this one thing that we haven't covered yet?
Well, yeah,
or two things.
Here, the first thing is you have to take action. You got to do something. That's without being, because everybody has their own situation with their credit. They have their, everybody's situation is different, but everybody has to do something. I recommend talking to Rich and having him run your credit report. Here, what I would not do is go, at the end of this call, go to Credit Karma and try to figure out whether or not you're okay for a mortgage, because that's not where you need to go. You need to talk to Rich so he can get a proper mortgage report. Because again, it's not just only the scores. There's a lot of detailed information that are very specific to the lending process that he's going to need to see. So if he does that, he can also figure out if it makes sense for you to talk to me about it, or I'm always willing to do a free analysis anyway, and you have my contact information. But the point is that I'm kind of just scrolling this up and putting this up as we're kind of ending here. Just don't do things that you think are right because you think they're right, or because, Mr. Google says this is what you should do. There's a lot of wrong information out there as far as that goes. And be careful, don't paying collections off, things like that. But I guess
even some, Jim, even to that point, even some of the big talking heads out there, like a Susie Orman or those, we've heard advice from some of those folks where, our skin's crawling, because I want to say it was her that said, close all your credit cards, get rid of your credit cards now. And we've already discussed that. I mean, that's relatively devastating to your credit, because A, you're losing all that old credit. B, you're not showing the bureaus that you can pay anything on time. And C, you don't even really have the ability to reduce balances versus limits to improve your score. So, I mean, there's one piece of advice from, and again, no disrespect to her, but any talking head out there, they think they have that information. Jim lives it. it's one of the reasons I don't give credit advice. I'm going to turn that over to Jim because Jim is living in that space, and why we rely on him. And certainly for you guys that are on this, the fact that he's offered the opportunity to go through and walk through those reports with you guys, it's certainly a great advantage. So,
Or you
Jim,
can do
go ahead.
what Dave Ramsey recommends and just save up and pay cash for your house. There's a good
Oh
answer.
yeah, yeah, that happens in about a year or two.
You know, there's certain people out there, like you just said, that they're providing information that isn't necessarily the real world that we live in. And so, and I always, you know, I've been in credit 32 years, and I give advice to what I would do if I were in your position, you know. So anyway, I think
Well, that's perfect, Jim. You did a great job. I want to open the floor certainly for any other last minute questions that we have. I want to talk about a couple things that we have coming up next month, which I believe Antonio verified. It's May 15th. May 15th, we have tax attorney Ryan Shafkus. That's going to be our next in the series. And Ryan is a property tax attorney. So if you ever wanted to know, what, I don't understand my tax bill. Somebody explain how that they came up with this number. If you ever wanted to know how to read it and wanted to know if you're getting the right exemptions, and more importantly, how to contest it, Ryan's going to actually help you. I mean, property taxes, we're in the top 3 in the country for high property taxes. If, you know, maybe we're number 2 chasing New Jersey, but ultimately on May 15th, same time, 9 to 10, Ryan's going to come on here. Ryan, I like Ryan because he actually does commercial and residential, and he does every county in our market. So the other reason that we waited till May, not started now with Ryan, aside from the fact that Jim is just amazing, but after May is when most of the townships begin to open up so that you can actually dispute what's on your tax bill. So, you know, again, we're here to show you guys how to live better, save more money, and have financial wellness. In June, we'll have a different program coming up. It may be based on some of the books that we've been handing out today. Some of the books we handed out today are just great tools. The Latte Factor is a great tool, certainly for somebody young who just wants to learn a little bit about savings. And those are some phenomenal tools. We've also got a group coming up that's going to teach about student loan consolidation and forgiveness. That'll be in one of our future series. So we're really excited about that. If you have anything that you want to know or things that you think you guys would want to know, shoot me an email, drop something in the chat. We're going to leave this open for a little bit. Let's see here, just going through. Scott thanks us. Tony's put the registration for the property tax piece in the chat, so you can register right now for that. That's going to be a great one that we're going to do May 15th. And got a couple other thank yous. Thank you guys very much for everything. I think I got one more. Scott was pretty active for prizes, so I got another book available for Scott. Thank you very much for all your great questions. Jim, thank you for your time. It doesn't look like we've got any other questions. Thank you guys for joining us. Jim, any final words other than do you make those quilts right behind you?
Yeah, no.
There you go. Oh, also, before I forget, I wanted to thank Tony. She does a great job making this possible for us.
Yes.
And getting all this coordinated, creating the Zoom links, making sure we're here and on time and everything else. So we really appreciate that. And
I do mean it, Rich, when I say anybody that has a question about credit, my phone number's there, my email's there. Give me a call. It's what we do. So I'm more than happy to help answer any specific questions for you.
Let's see here. And I want Tony, do me a favor and put my contact information into the chat, because Omri wanted to reach out to us. And so make sure you get my contact in there. Let's see here. That's that. And then Take Napoleon Hill is still available. Oh, that's okay. Good. All right, good. Yeah, we've got Actually, there's not a Napoleon Hill book in there. So relative to those two, Scott. So Richest Man in Babylon or the Latte Factor, you can let me know about that. Omri, our information just dropped in the chat. You can email me there. Perfect. Excellent. So I got that, Scott. That'll work. And guys, thank you very, very much for attending. Jimmy, thank you for your time on a Saturday. I'll let you get back to quilting. Thank you guys all, and look for the invite for the property tax event. Ryan's a genius, and I'm looking forward to bringing that to you guys. So added value. Thanks, guys. God bless. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, guys.